George, how are you?
I'm fine, Michael. Very quick.
Good evening. Mark Neville, 42 Main Street. First, I want to address, and I want to thank the council or the town administrator or whoever it was that was responsible for replacing the old tattered American flag outside of the front town council. I've been seeing that thing for a long time, and I was actually thinking of bringing one tonight to present to the council. So I saw it a couple days ago be removed, so thank you very much for that. My guess is the storm really took a beating on it as well. Per my notes that I have in front of you now, and I'm not necessarily speaking as a budget committee member, but rather as a citizen here, since your last town council meeting, the budget committee has unanimously voted to recommend the removal of $27,000 for the pay equity wage adjustments for the 4 command staff members, which were approved and implemented by the Police Commission on January 4th, 2010, as well as $46,000 for the non-union wage increases for next year's budget. This is pertaining, I guess, to your conversation for the meeting of the last 3 weeks ago. But I want to make it clear that the Commission has not yet rescinded the wage increases for next year's budget, pending voter approval. So the police chief, when implementing the once approved budget, may still have the ability to grant the wage increases by using unspent budget funds from other lines of his bottom line budget. Funds were removed, but the vote to keep the raises was not. And just because the town administrator administratively processed the wage increase request does not justify the commission in awarding raises to begin with without open discussion about them in public. I have several questions myself that I would like to pose to the council for their consideration, which is in front of you now. Did the commission consider merely adjusting the wage scales without actually approving raises at all? They could have just adjusted the wage scale without giving out raises. Also, if the commission's argument is that the wage adjustments were approved in order to satisfy the captain's wage range adjustment, why then was the chief and other command staff given a raise as well? It is interesting to note that they were only concerned with the positions of the police chief, the captains, and lieutenant. Maybe they need to further examine who it is that's exactly leaving the department for alleged more money. Detectives, sergeants, and patrol officers. So much for that argument. If the lieutenant's position is considered low in wage scale and wage range, so as to appeal to the sergeant wanting to be promoted, as they claim, why adjust the other ranges of other positions as well, instead of just the wage range for the lieutenant's position? Is there even a lieutenant's position available at this time for the commission to be so concerned that adjusting that position's wage range for a sergeant to be applied for it? Which lieutenant is planning to leave the department so that the sergeant would need to be urgently applying for the position as a replacement for that departing lieutenant? What's the urgency for the police commission to approve these wage scale adjustments without going through the proper process with transparency to the citizens and town boards to oversee and approve it themselves? Finally, a police commissioner recently commented in a newspaper that the commission can do whatever they want with their budget money. I want to remind the commission and this council that it is the citizens' money that the commission is so possessive of and insistent of giving out without scrutiny or accountability to the process. It is not the commission's money. The citizens pay it out with their taxes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Todd Lazat. I'm a new, member of this community. Relatively, I've been here about 3 years. My name is Todd Lazat. I'm at 21 Post Road. My participation in attendance at police commission meetings, officer discipline hearings, and budget committee meetings from November 2008 until today have provided an interesting retrospective on how the police department command staff operates. I will say one of the saving graces of this department is its patrol officers, sergeants and civilian staff. I personally have interacted with a good number of them, making calls in and also having them watch houses and such when traveling. But with my interaction, I've always been impressed with their professionalism, their promptness in arriving when I have a concern. the professionalism, courtesy, and also their follow-up. Actually, it was they follow up every time I make a call, and not that I made a bunch of them, but it's good to see. There's talk about needing staff and about filling positions, but as the Budget Committee research shows, there seems to be a plateau of effort on behalf of the command staff when they're trying to meet those numbers. It's interesting, I do a lot of analysis in my career, and it seems like they plateau at about 24, 25, and the effort falls back when they reach that number. But when you contrast that to the tremendous effort they use, what they do in regards to paying legal fees to get rid of these officers, you tend to see a contradiction of actions. I wonder if those excessive legal fees could have been used to improve employees' work environment, or possibly team building exercises, or even to fund training. I can imagine it's hard to be motivated as an employee working in an organization that does not thrive or gain ground. I personally see that there's a malaise that's palpable within the department, but also within the very budget history outlined by the Budget Committee. These officers and employees choose a career in law enforcement to develop that interest, and they did not sign up to be subjugated and chained to a career devoid of challenges, rewards, or upward mobility. The failure to thrive is easy to see. Just simply use the benchmark used by the command staff to justify these equity raises. I produced this chart to kind of demonstrate that. With my interaction with other citizens, there's a lot of, I guess what you call a clampdown on information. I personally sent an email to the chief asking for statistics which are published in the annual report. I just wanted some clarification on how they aggregated the data. He sent me an email a few weeks later saying, you really need to submit a right to know request. I was kind of baffled by that because I'm not asking for anything that isn't published in the annual report. I'm just asking to expand the data set. So that's fine, we dealt with that. But this happens over and over again. One of the I just told recently, someone asked for the number of internal affairs investigations, just a total, how many were there in 2009, and he was told it's due to the RSA, it's confidential. If you look at that chart, I went to Goffstown and I found out exactly how many internal investigations they had. It was published on their website. Not only that, they clarified that there was 3 in command and there was a certain number in patrol staff. There was a few others in the civilian corps. They also list out what the offenses were and what the dispositions were. I also found a few other CALEA, I should say, accredited organizations, and they listed in even more detail. They don't say the person or anything of that nature, but they're open and transparent. The idea being that citizens can look at that at 1 year and compare it to the next year. The idea is metrics of measurement of performance. It gives us a better, a clear idea of how well they're operating. So, if you look at that chart, it's pretty clear. And if you look at Goffstown PD management, you notice that it's organized based on the accreditation, transparency, and also a progressive incremental growth, where taxpayer-funded investments in the community, programs and crime analysis are nurtured over time, and those investments in taxes actually pay dividends to the community. Our taxpayer funds seem only to have maintained the status quo, and in many cases, programs such as the K-9 program continue to lose ground or fail completely. The problem we face as taxpayers is simple. Are we getting what we deserve for these tax monies that we hand out to these programs and to this department? And I think we're at a crossroads. Do we let them make them prove their ability to turn around this department? And if so, instead of rubber stamping their requests, let's hold back a little bit more of the money, make them think outside the box. If you look at the Budget Committee laid out a great argument for this. And I went and verified some of the things that they said with Goffstown, and it's solid. We should be able to do more with less. But I also think that it's time for this command staff to prove their worth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay.
If I could you possibly find out who it was that requested the right to know form for the citizen? Who he's from?
Sure.
Yeah,
Could you?
in regards to the internal investigations.
No, who asked you, who told you you needed to submit a right to know form to get the statistics?
The chief.
It was the chief?
Yes, and I courtesy copied that to Commissioner McHughes, and so she was aware that he had responded back saying that I would have to submit a right to know request.
And how long after your request for the statistics did that happen?
Councilor Rogers, please. Could you use the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake, I know I'm sorry, Harold, you reprimanded us for this before. Okay, the question I was asking was who had requested this right-to-know form based on this request by the citizen, and I was informed it was the chief. And my follow-up question is, how long between your request and your denial of that, how much time transpired?
What I decided to do is if I had to do that, I was going to go to the,
I just wanted to know,
Yeah.
you called and asked for the statistics, the crime statistics, and
No,
how long after that were you told you needed a right to request, a right to know?
I sent an email asking for the statistics, and I think it was within 2 weeks. I got a response from the chief saying that I would need to file a formal right to know request. At that point, I didn't pursue it any further, figuring that I could get the statistics I needed from the daily log, which they keep in their lobby.
I see, so it was more than a couple of days later.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on, any nominations and appointments tonight? Just for the record again, so everybody knows, we have a planning board alternate member expiring June of 2012. We have a zoning board adjustment alternative member June of 10, and trustee of the trust funds expiring 2012. So if anybody is interested or you know anybody, we ask you to please reach out to your fellow citizens. At this point, one issue I want to talk about is a recent phone call that I received at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night by one individual. Okay, and that individual had come to the town and asked for understanding of what the processes might be to abolish the commission. So I listened, and I took it under consideration. And the unfortunate part, at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night, right after a week after a council meeting, with the school vacation week happening that Monday, there was a lot of councilors out. Most everybody had already scattered for one reason or another. We had people headed to Aruba, Vegas, we had people, myself, going to Dallas. So at that point, there was no ability, no quorum. Now, some have said, then I received an email by two of the councilors asking me to approach that subject. And we looked into it one more time, and we found again that there would not be a quorum at that point. So there was obviously nothing we could do. It was also suggested that there's the ability to do a phone call. Well, there is an ability to get on the phone under an RSA for emergencies, okay? Different types of emergencies within the town. So that did not constitute an emergency, okay? So I will say that's where we stood. The other issue is that there's a couple of things. There's, as you all know, we've been in looking at legal for suggestions and for guidance on different issues. Right now, we're in a position where we've got legal opinions that say that the commission could be abolished by a charter amendment. And we have legal opinion that says everything needs to go through the legislation. Okay? In the past, gotten legal opinions. We were presented with a legal opinion, if you recall, not too long ago here. And also, I know in talking with the police chairwoman, Joanne McHugh, the commission chairwoman, that they've also obtained an opinion as well. So that I just wanted to level set. And I also just wanted to let you know that from my perspective, what I'm charged with as your chair and as a counselor within this community is that I get all the facts, I move slow, we get the information that we need, and we don't move in haste. Because prior councils before me have moved in haste, and that haste has brought on a lot of hurt to this town. And I will not, as a chairman, be in a position to bring any additional hurt to this town. I'm here to try to find a way for the parties to work together and to try to find a solution to what we need to get done. Now, if that disappoints some on the council, I apologize. If that disappoints some people out there, I apologize. But I was placed here by the taxpayers. I try to do the best that I can, and I'm going to get you the information that you need. So that's my position. So that, I hope, level sets everything that's gone on, that's transpired, let's say, over the last 3 weeks. Now, in addition, I've had a conversation with Joanne McHugh, the chair of the commission. They have a legal opinion there that at this point they're not willing to share with us. So tonight, I'm looking for a motion that I can get from somebody here, and it'll be for discussion obviously as well, but I'm looking for a motion that would ask Carol to draft a letter to the commission so that we can get and request their legal opinion to everyone on the council within the week. Second.
I'll make a different motion.
Oh, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Now
Well,
for
your
discuss-
motion is to draft a letter, right?
We draft a letter by
To request
Carol to
opinion.
request the legal opinion to be presented to the commission. So, to the council, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion. I'd like to speak to the motion that the council itself has done so.
Okay,
Go ahead. I've already made the motion.
floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to have in that letter that we send, that it specifically reference the right to know law. And that we're making that request under the right to know law.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, do they have to send us that letter? I asked for the copy of the salary report, and they wouldn't send that. Do they have to send us the letter from the attorneys?
That we're requesting their legal opinion, which I would assume would be in that letter.
Okay, but if they say no, what happens then?
I don't have an answer. I guess we'd have to find out where we would be at that point, and I would go back to, Carol and I would work, we'd go to GLC, we'd go to legal. I would hope that as part of the town board that we wouldn't have to go there. I mean, the purpose of us trying to get with them is to hopefully have some good dialogue and create a good working environment with them. So I'm hoping that that doesn't come to that. Just to also level set on why the commission isn't here tonight is, as you all know, we've been collecting questions that we wanted to present to them, issues that we wanted to present to them. And when the discussion was brought up at the commission, the last meeting I believe it was, the commissioners, two of the commissioners, one could not be here, and the other one did not want to come without seeing the questions ahead of time. So what I'm doing next week is sitting down with the chair, and we're going to review the questions, and we're going to get everybody comfortable. And once that happens, what I'm looking to do is bring them in so that we can have a dialogue with them.
Good.
Anything else? Council?
Yeah, well, we're really supposed to speak to the motion requesting this copy of this opinion that they received from their legal advisors. Granted, they can just turn that down because it is a request only. I'm just a little discouraged that none of them saw fit to attend tonight. That's all I'll say at this point. We'll wait for the next motion to come forward.
Anything else on the motion?
That motion is directed at the commission.
At the commission. We're going to send it right to the chair under the right to know. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Council Pizzuto.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for discussion purposes at this time that we put a non-binding referendum question on the ballot to see if the town is in favor of removing the commission and putting the authority of the commission back into the hands of the council. And the reason why I'm asking for this non-binding question is so we as a council know what direction the people want us to go into. If it comes in favor, if the people want to keep the commission, then we can just abide by them and not do any more legwork on it. Or if they're in favor of changing that power authority now, then we can go forward and change it the correct way. Now, my friend Councilman...
We need a second. Second by Councilor Booton.
And the motion, just to correct, because you kind of went all over this, so the motion is to put a non-binding referendum to the voters to see if the town is in favor. You didn't use the word abolish, so I just want to make sure of abolishing the commission.
If I
Is that
may,
what you're saying?
If I may, we did, in anticipation of the motion, we did
Put a
see,
motion together?
we put a motion together, and the motion should read, are you in favor of abolishing the Hooksett Police Commission? And in parentheses, it should state, this question is advisory only. So that would be, if you're okay with that amendment,
I'm perfectly fine, Mr. Chair, thank you.
you're okay.
Thanks.
Well, I just want to clarify, or I think we should clarify for the voters that the idea is that in abolishing the police commission, that the police department will then become a functioning department under the government structure of the
Council.
The town of Hooksett, reportable to the council, to the town administrator first and council. So the daily operations of the police department would then fall under the jurisdiction of the town administrator.
So we could
As
put
any
that,
other department does.
and we could put that on, like we typically do. We could work on the wording, but we could put it under.
That would be under the
Under
notes,
the-
not on
the
the actual
notes,
warrant
not on the
article, but yeah.
So, let me just back up, so we need to, we're talking right now on the motion that strictly should say, are you in favor of abolishing the Hooksett Police Commission? This question is advisory only. So, any other discussion?
When the statement was made, the daily operation would fall in the jurisdiction of the administrator. The daily operation would, I believe, still fall in the jurisdiction of the chief.
Yes, I meant the police chief would become a department head like the public works.
Correct.
Like all the other department heads, reportable to the town administrator. That was my
I knew you
I could tell the chairman that I was
were
getting
tracking right there. So we can get that underneath no pass. Council.
Yeah, I have, this kind of just gets rid of the commission as a commission. I think we should bring the commission under the authority of the council as it is from the state. I mean, that's our problem, is the commission, not the police department. Now, if we bring the commission under the authority of the council, we solve the problem.
one step at a time.
Well, then You're not saying, you're abolishing the commission, you're not saying what you're gonna put there in its place.
Well, I think
If
that
anything.
was the, I understand where you're going. I think that was the point that Councilor Booton was trying to make, where he would explain at that point, the department would come under the authority of the town administrator like any other department in town.
May I add, Mr. Chairman, that this recent disgrace in light of today's economy, of these outrageous pay rates, if they were a department, they would have to justify those pay raises, which they are unwilling to do up to this point. They would have to justify them as any other department would to the town council. And that, I just, there's so much anger out there, Mr. Chairman, in the community about this. And I'm very highly disappointed in the commission not being here tonight to be accountable for those pay raises, because they have rejected our request to suspend those pay raises until they talk to us. So they're going to continue doling out that money, the taxpayers' money, without coming here and justifying it to the council why it was done. And so, if it was a department, they would have to come here. First of all, they have to justify it to the administrator, and then the administrator would have to justify it to the council.
Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm supporting Council Piscato's motion.
Thank you. Council.
Mr. Chair, I will not be able to support this motion, and the reason being is that if the scenario came back that the voters said, yeah, abolish the police commission, we don't know if it can be done legally or not, for one thing. We've got two different people, we have two different opinions from two different law firms, and they don't really agree. Now we've got a third opinion, and they're still up in the air. They're not sure either. And I could see this town ending up going to court without any hesitation whatsoever. Being in court, and perhaps for a long drawn-out affair, and a lot of money. And I just don't know, I mean, if the townspeople do come out and say yes, or vice versa, if they come out and say no, then what are you going to do? Because it seems to me that the general opinion and general consensus in this room right now is, yeah, abolish the police commission. And I'm not sure that that's really a good reason to do so. And I'm not sure that by taking a straw poll, and I hear a number of various comments being made about the outrage in town. To date, I personally, as a counselor at large, have received 0 phone calls, 1 email, and have not been approached by any of my customers on the mailroom, of which I deliver over 540 boxes a day. And I see a number of these people on a daily basis. And I have yet to enter into a discussion, other than with one customer who happens to be sitting next to me, I have yet to enter into any discussion regarding the police department, police commission, pay raises, outrage, or anything else. And I will tell you that when the sewer commission came out with their tax bills, the next day it took me 6.5 hours to deliver the route when it normally takes me 3, because of the outrage that was definitely present. I have yet to be approached by one single customer in town. One individual has sent me an email. I believe it was an email, I believe that it said to all counselors. I have yet to receive one phone call from any outraged citizen in town.
Got one right here.
I haven't heard from you.
I talked to you last night, didn't I?
I don't believe so.
At the budget committee?
Pardon?
At the budget committee?
I was not at the budget committee.
Okay, what we're going to do, actually, because the discussion's going to remain at the council right now, if the public would like to comment, we're going to have public input a little later on this evening.
Thank you.
Just one quick comment, and we'll get to Councilor Pizzatola. That's one of the reasons why I've been working with Carol so diligently to try to get some of the opinions that we need and to work behind the scenes to try to bring some of this stuff. So it is something we're working on, so to answer your question, I guess in short, we continue to have to work towards it.
I appreciate that.
Council?
I don't know if I live a more outward life than my councilor neighbor here, but I've been in and out Kmart, the gym, supermarkets. Wherever I go, people stop and tell me about how outrageous they are about these pay raises. The hooks and issues, I subscribe to that. There must be, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 people on that thing now, and they're all yelling and screaming about the pay raises. I get phone calls. I got a phone call today, I got one last week about the pay raises, and I don't know why I get them and Jim doesn't, or maybe someone else doesn't get them. Well, you guys do get them. But certainly I believe that the people should decide what they want. I firmly believe that the Hooksett residents should decide what direction to send this council in. I ran for council for the simple reason I believe in the people's vote. So if they say to me, by voting on a non-binding question, that they don't want to change the structure of the police department, I accept that. And if it goes on the other hand, if they say that they want to change it, I accept that also. And then we're charged with a job to go out there and change it. Legal issues or no legal issues, the people decide on what we do. If it costs us $200,000 to do the people's work, then we do it. Because the police department spent $158,000 last year on legal bills. So if we could stop that bleeding by spending $200,000, well, we stop some bleeding. And pay raises would have gone through, you'd have saved another $40,000. So it's court and dollars at this point. You may just stop the bad dollars going out the window by spending some good dollars. And I firmly, truly believe that people should decide on what we do.
Thank you. Anything else? Council? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Ladies first.
I don't agree with that philosophy, by the way. I would like to be treated just like all the rest of my counselors. Thank you. So I guess my first question would be, do we already have a question on the ballot regarding the police commission and raising it from 3 to 5?
That's in the House bill.
That's right, but we voted to put it on the ballot if it went through, so I'm looking for...
I would ask, could I ask you, Council, if we can give an update, please?
The bill is still in the House. I expect that it's probably going to be acted on tomorrow, but don't know. The House is quite behind on their work right now.
Thank you. So, one of my biggest concerns with this motion is I'm not a big fan of non-binding referendums. There are questions out there people often do not even realize after they've voted on it and read it, and then they say, well, we voted on that, why is it still here? And so not a big fan of just non-binding. It's a question out there and not a big fan. But I would be really concerned if we end up with 2 questions about the police commission on the ballot and how one could affect the outcome of the other. And when you're thinking about walking into vote, well, I'm not going to vote to raise it if I think it should be abolished. But if I vote that it should be abolished, I don't believe we should lose the opinion of whether or not it should be raised or not. So I have concerns with this particular motion and adding any additional question because of those 2 reasons. We've talked a lot about not acting hastily, and there has been a continual, and I don't think the question is necessarily hasty, but I think adding another question is hasty, especially if it's non-binding. We're throwing it out there because some of us have heard from people and some of us haven't. They know how to get a hold of us if they want us to know their opinion. At least I have no problem with my constituents getting a hold of me. So I guess I'm just not comfortable with this particular question going on now, regardless of my opinion of whether or not the police commission is right or not. The people did speak. They spoke 38 years ago. I might have that number slightly off. But the people did speak, and they spoke, and they said they wanted a police commission. So just because the question is a little older than the amount of time we've been sitting here, we do have to remember we did ask the question, and the people did speak at that time. So I will hold off any further opinion.
Council.
Mr. Chairman, I think just in response to Councilor Van Score's comment about the second question, given where things are right now in the legislative process, it's not going to be available to put on the vote. It still has to come to the Senate, which probably won't happen for another week to 2 weeks, and then it's got to go through the Senate process. We're talking about going into the month of April, and then if it were passed, it would have to go to the governor's office. It's just not, the timetable got pushed such that, if it had been heard very early and acted on very quickly, yes, we might have had a chance to put it on the ballot, but it's not going to happen because of the track in the legislative process. So
Thank
it would
you.
not be a second question on the ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Council.
Yes, I'm going to speak in favor of the motion because, again, I'm a firm believer in allowing people to voice their opinions in a democratic fashion. And being non-binding also just, it's a way of seeing what is wanted out there. I don't see it being in conflict also with the increasing the number of the commission because it accomplishes the same thing. Instead of increasing it to 5, we're increasing it to 9 by abolishing it if that was to occur. In other words, now there'll be 9 people making decisions on the council as opposed to the 3 people that we currently have on the police commission. Also, going back to when the police commission was first created, there wasn't a 9 council member then either. So we're still accomplishing the same.
Are you speaking to me or the council?
I'm speaking to the council, I'm just looking in your direction. So
Thank you. I was just wanting to clarify
that
whether you were answering me.
when the police commission was created, there wasn't a 9-member town council, and the concept was to take politics out of it. And I think the purpose of having a 9-member council, which is a large body of any town to make decisions, is doing just that. That there's no 1 or 2 people that can really push their weight around on this council and get their will done. So I think that putting it to the voters, to give them a non-binding chance to give their opinion to us as a whole as to whether they think the police commission should be abolished and that the authority should be placed at the council level as is any other department in the town is a good idea, and I think that we should allow the voters to have their say on this.
Thank you. Anything else? Move the question.
I got one. This, I feel, I will vote for this, but all we're trying to do is find out what the people's thoughts are out there. We've heard from both sides. There's only 2 or 3 of them. We've heard from Jim, who says he hasn't heard from anybody, and we have Mike, who's heard from a lot of people. I've heard from quite a few people myself. So they say we agree that the council should work to abolish the commission. Then we're looking at a year down the line, unless we have a special town meeting to do this, which I would probably say, and then we put it to the vote all over again. I don't know, I'd like to really find out what the vote would be on how they feel about abolishing the commission. I know I'd like to see it abolished, but mine doesn't matter.
Mr. Chair? David mentioned that maybe if the people vote for it, then maybe you can put it on the September primary ballot, and then put it on that ballot, and you don't need a special election for that. And then you put it on that, and you can have an answer by September.
We could do that, that'd be fine.
Yep, is that correct, David?
I did ask the Secretary of State's office if it would be feasible to put a question, the town question, at the September primary. So there would be two ballots. There would be the elected ballot for the offices, and then there would be a second town ballot. So it's feasible to do.
Thank you. Well, I'm saying thank you to David. No, thank you.
Call the question.
Please.
Can you have a roll call, Mrs. Attorney?
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor Booton,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
No.
Counselor Loizao,
Yes.
Counselor Longfellow.
Yes.
Counselor Piscatella.
Yes.
Counselor Ross.
Yes.
Counselor Van Scoy, aye, and Chairman Gaharn.
Yes.
That's 7 in approval.
Thank you. Let's we'll move into town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last day for submission of petition warrant articles was yesterday, and the town did not receive any, so there won't be any petition warrant articles added. In the process of preparing the warrant, which would include 7 zoning amendments that the planning board approved, along with the 8 articles that were adopted by the council, and have recommendations from the council as well as the budget committee. The first day for candidates to file their declaration of candidacy with the town clerk is March 24th, and that the last day for filing is April 2nd. So March 24th to April 2nd, we will publicize the openings as such.
Because it was going to cost $100,000 to put it on a light, which just didn't make any sense. Last Friday, I met with Assistant Commissioner Jeff Vilhart, explained the situation and asked what they could do about it. And I got a phone call yesterday that indicated that they were going to put a 3rd signal up there. So now it'd be very clear that that travel lane is for right turn only, which will make it a much safer intersection. And so what I asked, I asked the town administrator to prepare a letter, and if everybody was okay with that, that we would send a letter of thanks.
Me?
I missed it.
The others. Sir?
Yeah, last week we had the police commission meeting. Joanne McHugh, as the chair, was trying to address the issue of the number that was taken out of the budget, which was $320,000 approximately. And what she was trying to do is address the overtime line to see if it could be broken down, to say the numbers that are spent in overtime, like year to year, 231,000, 242,000, 270,000, 208,000, and that's 06, 07, 08, and 09. So it's roughly 230,000 that's spent a year on the overtime line. And I guess the homework that she was trying to do it basically the 11th hour, because the budget committee meeting was that Thursday, so here it's Tuesday, so one day to do something. And the idea was to find out if the overtime line could be broken down to the point that says, this is what's expended to cover vacations, this is what's expended to cover holidays, this is what's covered for sick time, and so forth, and see what excess there is in that line. Because the police department every year has returned money to the general fund, and whether that money is being returned whether some of it came out of the overtime line or not was the focus of that study and homework to be done. And we also looked at possibly using the highway department to service the vehicles, to reduce the cost of servicing the vehicles rather than going outside like they have been. And the administrator contacted Dale, and Dale said it is doable.
He, since stating that, he did say, based on with the funds, they might need additional help to meet the demands.
So anyway, the intent of that whole meeting was to see how we look at that directive that came from the budget committee, and basically an uphill battle.
Thank you, Council. All right, this time we'll entertain public input.
Good evening, my name is David Pearl from 79 Main Street. I'd like to thank the council for taking action on the police issue. I have come before the board, this council before, and asked you to take action, so I think that I should come and thank you for taking that action. I attended that police commission meeting that Paul was talking about, and I can tell you I was pretty disappointed in what I saw there. To speak to the 5 issue, there was a commissioner missing. They couldn't get a second on the motion to take action if they'd wanted to. I give Joanne McHugh so much credit for trying to make something happen, but to watch the uncooperative atmosphere that's happening over there, I think something needs to be done. What disappointed me the most was Joanne was looking for a solution to the raise question, and I think she realizes the level of concern in this community about that. And when she asked the chief, he said that maybe she should talk to the staff and find out their feelings about this. As a manager, I think the chief should handle that. The chief should have his staff in line. He should be giving recommendations to that commission to what should be done, and he should be supporting those ideas. It's not the commission's job to go and poll the staff of the police department to find these things out. That's why we have a manager there. And I think that night, he was not managing. And I think we're suffering from a lack of leadership at the police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else public input?
Well, I'll speak to one of the councilors' discussions about why people don't...
Can I have your name again?
Oh, sorry. Todd Lazat, 21 Post Road. Like I said, I'm a new member of this community, but one of the things that I think a lot of people, especially when I talk to my neighbors, is that we're all concerned about the economic climate. I travel extensively in Asia and Europe and so forth, so I don't get here for votes. I don't get here for a lot of the meetings. I missed the last 3 police commission meetings, and that's a new hobby for me. The reason I got involved in this was because of Jay DeFina. I saw a veteran, a Marine, a young guy, been with the department 10 years. I only talked to him, maybe a half dozen times, but I talked to a lot of his friends, and I'm a good judge of character, and I saw someone who was basically yanked through the mud for political reasons, and I believe systematically targeted and basically taken out. Now, after that happened, I did a little more investigation and saw that, he had commendations, second in his sergeant's exam in the state level. Those are significant things that didn't lead to me to believe that he was incompetent. I see a person that was probably a whistleblower, that was pushed into a corner. I participate in all sorts of issues, and I'm maybe not as politically savvy. I kind of speak my mind, but the fact is, a few people keep bringing this thing about personnel files. I look at those personnel files and I say they were used or are used for purposes other than training or nurturing or bringing these people along. Matter of fact, I look at it as equivalent to beating somebody in places you can't see the bruises. That's why those things come up. because you can't read them. So they want to have, they want to use them as something of, if you knew what I knew, you'd think differently. That's what I keep hearing. So, as a citizen, one of the reasons that we don't really, I think, approach this is we vote in people to do this work. And one of the first things we look for is fiduciary responsibility. Now, I look at this commission and I say, well, thank God Mrs. McHugh is on board. There's a thing called, a mission, a mission of facts or a mission of items. And one of the things I saw, which I think Mrs. McHugh mentioned, she said, well, what if I would have known that those officers got that or the command staff got a 2.5% raise in July, maybe I would have thought differently. It's an act of omission. Not one of those guys on that commission said, well, as we're looking at this raise, just so you know, bringing up to speed, we gave them a 2.5% raise. To me, that was a lie. An act of omission is a lie. So the question becomes, when I look at the commission, is it really a commission of 3, or is it a commission of 2 against 1? So, I kind of look at my father was a commissioner up in Claremont for a while, and they lived up there, and one of the things that he said to me was, the commission always has to be the proponent of the citizen. It's supposed to be that block in there. They can't be friends of the chief and buddy-buddy with them. The fact is they have to have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer, period. And they have to make the chief justify these reports. I put that right there, the need-to-know culture of information protection. That's what we have here. There is no freedom or transparency or, they won't give you things. Why? So you can make a good judgment, a call based on everything. No, they're hiding stuff. For what reason? You're going to finally get that information. So I guess back to this whole thing of why people don't come forward. We basically say we vote you in to make those decisions. You're supposed to be taking that on our behalf while we worry about feeding our families and living through this economic climate. So the other thing too is it's the police chief. My wife says, why the hell are you doing this? As if she thinks that the chief is going to have one of his guys, do something to me. So that's the kind of, and not to say he wouldn't, he's a nice guy and I've talked to him. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at it, a lot of people say, just don't get involved. But the other people do that. That's usually why it happens. But just look at what happened, what you guys are dealing with. We had a situation where the chief approached a legislator and said, if you go and put this legislation, well, I'm going to hang out Looks' laundry. In my line of business, that's called bureaucratic corruption. I'm sorry, that's what it is. If you say you're going to do something and you have power, it's not a money thing. It's just a fact, and did he go up there to testify? No. This chief does things by proxy. So my guess is he probably has somebody up there lobbying on his behalf. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
My name is Owen Forrest. I live on Pine Street, District 2. I'm a little concerned about the police budget myself, especially the line item where the cost of legal fees have gone from $40,000 to $150,000. Can you explain the reason for that? Anybody?
I think what you'd want to do is direct that question to the budget committee.
Okay. And as far as the chief goes, I don't know this chief, but I know of him, and he was brought up in this town. I don't know if he still is in this town, but if I was a chief right now, I'd take that money and turn it back in, because there was definitely a lack of communication between the council, the budget committee, and the administration. And one more. Last year's budget, we had a budget that was less than the default budget. Am I correct? my question is, why did my taxes go up 2.5%? I'm sure everybody else's went up too. I don't know. I would assume so. Any answer for that?
You do get impacted by the revenue side. The revenue side is down. The state is not returning the monies to the town that they did in the past. And if the insurance costs go up, those items you can't cover.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the work you people do, including, the council here and the budget committee. I was a member myself for 3 years, and I know how frustrating the job can be. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Anything else?
Michael Sorrell, I live at 54 Cross Road. Couple of things, briefly. Past member of the planning board, past member of the budget committee. And I realize that you as a council can't tell an independent board what to do. But I bring to your attention, about a year ago, you had a very good policy in effect. You had an ethical policy, and I'm paraphrasing, a behavior policy. And after someone made a complaint under that and some intense lobbying, you rescinded that. And that may be a solution to the situation that Councilor Van Scoy spoke about at the planning board. My memory was that you were going to do another one. How does that go? My memory was that someone made a motion that we would rescind this one, but we would work on another one.
It's complete.
Is it been done?
Complete. It's been out there.
Is it in place?
Board members should be
So we do
signing
have, you do have a, what is it called?
code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
Copies available? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well,
Very briefly, I'm as a citizen, I'm very, very concerned that a great deal of information that comes before this board from a very small vocal minority is inaccurate. It's incorrect, a great deal of it. And some of it just plain wrong. It is dangerous to speak without knowledge. It is irresponsible to speak without knowledge. And it's been said it's the height of ignorance to speak without knowledge. And my concern is, without taking up a lot of your time this evening, that no one rebuts these people that come before you and lobby you and say there are issues with the police department and there are problems with the police department and they're doing this wrong and they're doing that wrong. They don't have the knowledge. They don't know what the statutes are, they don't know what the rules and regulations are, but they make a lot of noise. My concern is that noisemakers will become policymakers because they hammer away at you with inaccurate information. The internet is a safe haven for liars, charlatans, frauds, and fools. And we have a website in this town that is not in the best interest of the town of Hooksett. I'm just concerned that you receive a balance of information, not just the few people that come before you that say, last night I went to the police commission meeting and they did this wrong and they did that wrong and they did that wrong. Those same people are at that, have been to the meetings. They are rude, they are disruptive, they are discourteous, and then they come before you the next night or the next meeting and tell you how badly they run their business at the police commission. So I'm just concerned that you get a balance of information so that you can make intelligent decisions. We've got a good police commission. There are questions, there are issues, but we have an organization that works well and has worked well in this town for many, many years. You can go back and look at the past police commissions. You can call them. A lot of them still live in town. And you can speak to them. You can ask their questions. They have responsibilities. They know what they are. It's in the statute. This is not the first council that has questioned the council's authority over the Hooksett Police Commission. Just go back a few years. I think Mike Farrell was a town administrator when some of the questions came up in the year 1999, the year 2000. And you have the correspondence in your file. So you know where your standing is and where your authority is. Police commissions were formed in the state of New Hampshire, not only for this town, but for all of the other towns, to keep the politics away from running the police departments. This is a political group of people. You're politicians. They're not supposed to be. The commissioners are not supposed to be political. That's why they're there. So I'm just concerned that you, as all councilors, get a balance of information and seek all of the information that's there. Not just a few people that are whispering in your ear want you to hear a particular side of something. It's very popular now. The police department's in the barrel. Let's pound on the barrel. Which department will it be next year? By a few concerned citizens. Are they going to worry about another budget of another department? It's not in the best interest of Hooksett for that to continue. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mark Mevo, 42 Main Street again. Good evening. I had some other prepared statements, but perhaps I'd like to speak to the issue as well, as Mr. Sorrell just said. I have never lied when I have ever opened my mouth as a citizen of Hooksett. Having talked to you people in front of you, having been to a police commission meeting, or any other planning board meeting, CIP committee, all of which I have attended for the last 2 years. I was personally invited to attend police commission meetings by the chief himself so that I would learn the process. As you all know, I'm about process. I am not about personalities. And I resent the fact very much that some citizens in this town attack me personally for my personal opinions. I have a right to speak. It is a constitutional right to speak as a citizen. I speak as a budget committee member when I sit at that table. Otherwise, I am a citizen first and foremost. I have a right to speak to any official in this town face to face as I'm doing here. Not once has Mr. Sorrell ever disputed anything I or anyone else has ever said other than to say, you're wrong. I've become emotionally involved in this town 2 years ago because I was receiving emails and phone calls from other citizens in this town, specifically and especially from past and present police officers. And their comments to me have brought me to tears on many occasions. And it forced me to become involved to make what's wrong right. I'm pleading with you, and I've pleaded with you months on many times on my public input, that what you see going on in this police commission may not have anything to do with how you run their authority, but it definitely has to do with how we have our taxes being paid for their activities. And that's where you need to pay attention. Anything I have ever said, it is based on fact, it is based on the minutes, it is based on statements that other officials have said. I go back to a police commission meeting based on what they said the prior month, and I ask them about those minutes again, and ask them to restate it again. And if I see process being wrong, I ask them to correct it. To give you some examples, as I said about 1.5 years ago to this council, the safety center sign costing $33,000 was paid for without a single vote from this committee. Without a single vote. It originally started as a fundraiser for $5,000. It was passed over to the police commission, and they made it a $33,000 sign without coming back to this council for approval. That is a fact, Mr. Sorrell. They encumber funds at the end of the fiscal cycle. They just bought a paddy wagon for $53,000. $53,000 is over the limit of CIP committee. That is a violation of procedure. That is a fact. They have encumbered firing ranges by putting money into other funds. Safety school reports. We all know the story about the safety school reports. I didn't invent the safety school report problem. Everything that comes out of the police commission, they do to themselves. They are self-inflicting their own problems. I go there and I shake my head. I was trying to go there to learn how the budget process works, and I can't leave now, even if I wanted to. Because I'm appalled by what happens over there. A poor lack of procedure for Robert's Rules until Joanne showed up, who she finally cleaned up the whole process. It was a mess over there before. Mr. Gagnon sat right there and made a wisecrack joke on April 14th of last year in front of Jay DeFina's hearing. A wisecrack joke because he was being charged and suspended for a post-it note that he made. And then a discussion was happening about a student assault at Collie School, and Mr. Gagnon made a wisecrack joke about this could all be resolved if the nuns just took him in the back room and beat him, as a result of a conversation about student assaults. That happened, Mr. Sorrell. I didn't say the comment, but I did protest it. They're currently discussing for months on end whether to have exit interviews for the 12 officers who have left this department over the last year, and more coming. I'm telling you right now, there's several more coming in the next few months. This is ugly, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not making this up. It's happening in town. It's happening. The Jay DeFina hearing, enough said. The termination, I didn't make that up. The police commission did it themselves to Jay DeFina. And there'll be a trial upcoming, and a lawsuit upcoming, which will affect everyone's taxes. I've submitted some right-to-knows to the police commission in October, never got an answer for the entire month, so I went back the following month and asked again. And I got it 15 days later, even though it's supposed to be submitted after 5 days. I didn't get angry. I went to the police commission the following month in December, and I said, okay, politely, and you can see it on the record, on the videos. I said, where's my right to know? I asked for it 2 months ago. Where is it? And they're filling papers. 3 times before I got those answers. I submitted questions in August. I have still not received those answers. I'm not making this up, Mr. Sorrell. This is accurate. This is a fact. Rules are being broken. I'm not saying laws are being broken, but certainly poor procedure is happening right here, and we've had enough of it. I can't leave these meetings even if I wanted to. It's outrageous what happens over there, and I urge any commissioner, any committee person here, counselor, to please attend these meetings. This stuff is happening, and it's outrageous. Actions have to be done, and criticizing me for talking out loud is not going to solve the problems. Don't criticize the messenger. Criticize what's happening in town. If you're appalled by what I'm saying, and I'm saying the truth, then he should be appalled by what's happening. As all each and every one of you. Don't criticize me for telling what's happening. Yes, I'm very vocal. But I have said nothing wrong that's happening right now. This is truly occurring in town. And it's reaching the papers, and everyone in the state thinks we're a laughingstock. If you haven't seen the internet on the Union Leader articles that have comments around other articles, people from Lebanon, New Hampshire are complaining about Hooksett. People from Portsmouth. Oh my God, there goes the chief again. Oh my God, there goes the council again. The laughingstock, blah, blah, all this stuff. This is serious stuff. And again, I'm hearing this because people see what I'm doing. And yes, I'm taking a hit in town a lot here. But I have the courage enough to do what's right. And I'm not going to worry about some person in town or we're not the minority. Thank you. This is a citizen-based commission, and they're not doing the job of the citizens. Thank you very much.
Vincent Limbo, 56 Main Street. I guess I'm going to pose this question to the older councilors here.
What are you looking at me for?
Well, I'm not the older ones, the ones that have been on the longest. Who authorized the chief to buy that sign?
We didn't, the sign was on our budget. We had a line, I believe, for $5,000 for the sign. The chief came forward, because it was close, I guess it was May or June, some time frame, it was spring, and he offered, because he wanted to work it in conjunction with the fire department as well, to say, I'll take over the responsibility to sign. And we said, fine.
You directed him to do it, right?
The council directed him to, that he offered to do it, and we said, go ahead and do it. With his knowledge that he was aware that the line item that we had was $5,000. Okay? I believe, I can't guarantee you this, but I don't think there were 3 bids.
No.
With 1 bid. Okay? And that was handled by the police commission, and they accepted it and built the sign.
Who pushed for that sign?
Chief,
No. I was on the budget committee at the time.
well, the chief and, I don't know, but good
Sandy Oliver pushed for that sign. She was the chairman of the budget committee.
Now, Sandy Oliver was involved with the sign that went on the building. That's
No,
the Chief Oliver.
you're wrong, Counselor. I was on the budget committee with her. She was the one that wanted that sign put in. The chief says he'd do it under the direction of the council. He's getting beat up because he did what the council asked him to do.
No. He came to the council and offered.
And you directed him to do it. He was tired of hearing about it.
But he also knew that our line item was $5,000.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Questions are supposed to go through the chair.
I apologize.
Directed to a particular council, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Loisel engaged me in conversation, so
Anyway, that's what
go to the chair.
Just be honest, was that the council had a line item for $5,000. The chief came forward and offered the council to take over the sign, and we said, be our guest, and he went out and bought a $33,000 sign. That's it.
I was on the sign committee, can I speak on this?
Yeah, he was.
Oh, wow. I was on the original sign committee.
Could you use the microphone? Could you use the microphone?
Sorry. The original sign committee was looking for donations for the whole thing.
Correct.
And Sandy Oliver at that time had said that some of her family would donate money to the sign. I don't believe there was actually a line item of $5,000.
I don't either.
Sign.
Wasn't there a sign?
No,
No,
I don't think
there
so.
wasn't.
No, there wasn't. At first, it started out being donated, and I don't know really where the money came for the sign on the building. We did that, and then the granite sign out front of the safety center, we did that one. Then I had talked to Sandy after that about the sign out front, and she said, don't bother with it, I'm happy that they've got the 2 things done, and I'll settle for that. Somehow or other it came up that the sign committee was disbanded at that time. There was no longer a sign committee. From then on, the chief took over. And I don't know where. The next thing this council heard was what he paid for it.
Mr. Chairman, the council at the time put the sign into the chief's hands to get done. I don't know how many bids he got on it. All I know is Sandy Oliver, the chairman of the budget committee at the time, pushed to have that sign put in. The chief was gracious enough to help her out with it. He had the money in his budget, which he turns in anywhere between $100,000 and $300,000 every year back to the general fund. He took some of that money and he put the sign in to make Sandy Oliver happy and the council's direction. And the chief is getting beat up because he did what he was directed to do. I don't know why they keep bringing it up. I had a conversation with Rep. Hess yesterday. I tried to explain to him that the chief didn't have anything to do, and he agreed with me. He says he's heard to other constituents that the chief was not responsible for that sign. And he's sorry he jumped the gun and slammed the chief over it.
Okay?
We were talking to George just now, there was a budgeted number of $5,000. That's what we're trying to work with, and we're talking to Sandy about raising money for that.
Well, there might have been $5,000 in the budget, but I don't know what kind of sign Sandy Oliver wanted, but it wasn't a $5,000 sign. She wanted her husband's name in lights out front. And she got it. And now the chief is getting beat up over it. I'm sorry, directing my statements to the chair. So, I don't know why certain people in this town is beating the chief up over a sign that he really didn't have any control over. He did what he was directed to do. Maybe he spent a little too much money. He had the money to spend. He usually turns a heck of a lot in more to the general fund at the end of each fiscal year. So I wish people would just put that to bed and quit bringing up the sign that he spent so much money on. And could I address a question to Council Piscatolo?
Not at this time.
Not that, okay.
See me after the meeting's over.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a different note, Mr. Chairman.
We have a...
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, go ahead, if you'd like to, David.
No, go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Well, I thought this was going to be a somewhat quiet night here, guys, but this is interesting. I hardly know where to begin. I beg your pardon. Dick Sullivan, 7 Morgan. I'm going to begin with the chairman, and what I thought I heard from the chairman this evening was that he was acknowledging there's some difficulties back and forth with the police commission, and that he was going to assemble some questions and meet with the commission in order to move forward in a deliberate fashion. That's kind of what I took out. Is that in essence what you were saying, sir?
To a certain degree. I think the council weighed in on the answer your question directly.
Yeah, but that's, I heard that
Well, not quite.
the leadership of this council, at least, wanted to find a deliberate path to move forward and resolve some of the differences.
No, I think you're taking me out of context.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, what I did say was, and it'll be the last time tonight that I interact like this, I'll listen after this. But what I did say was that what I asked the councilors to do was put together questions or concerns that they had that we could pose if the commission came in. And because the commission didn't come in tonight, what the alternative is going to be is to sit with the chairperson of the commission and discuss those questions so that they can be prepared to answer them when we ask them to come back in.
I took away from that a sense that you were trying to find a deliberate and positive way of moving forward to resolve differences.
I am.
That's what I heard. Excuse me if I try to be too positive about it. And we end up then going to a situation, I want to put a referendum on the ballot to hear what the citizens have to say. I must say that that is probably one of the worst ideas I've heard come out of this council in the 8 years I've been in town. First of all, the question of how you're going to word that so that it's purposeful, so you come away with a real indication of something. If you want to find out what the citizens think, I would suggest run several hearings with specific topics relative to the police department and police commission. How shall we do this? Which do you want to do? Do you want to elect them? Do you want to let you guys take over the commission's responsibility? Or any of the other 4 possibilities there are? Have several public hearings. And I think you'll go like that in a ballot question that's just a nice little piece of something on the paper that doesn't mean anything, except politically it could be used. Secondly, how many of the citizens are going to know what the devil you're talking about, depending on the language you put in it? And we just had a school election with, I don't know, was it 280 votes, Leanne said?
279.
279. That was a disgraceful situation. The major expenditures in the town, 280 people showed up to voice their opinion. I went, and I now agree with John Sununu, the former governor, who conducted this, gave us this experiment. He stated in his own town meeting 2 years ago, SB2 is a total failure. And to me, if you're going to have the school committee budget determined by 280 people, outweighed by 70 who showed up to get information, that's kind of not a good indication of where this town government is going. So I think if you have the hearings, you might end up with more people who would pay attention and give you some good input, and you could get some ideas about which direction they want to go in. From what I can see, the 3-member police commission has worked for every other community that has it. Periodically, there's a flare-up. But by and large, it does what it's supposed to do. It keeps the department going in a consistent direction without being whipsawed. In towns that the selectmen, all due respect to you folks, in towns where the selectmen are responsible, fairly frequently you'll see something going on the union leader, and what happens is the chief ends up spending more time trying to settle the political arguments with council than running the department. It's not a healthy way to do it, I don't think. Some of the comments made here this evening, Mr. Sorrell made no indication that Rudy is telling lies. I didn't hear that. But we got Rudy's litany anyhow. And it's a litany that has, if anything was in his opinion done incorrectly in the department, goes on the litany. And it just grows. Nothing comes off. It just grows. And I don't think that's a very positive thing. Mr. Lazat indicates that the folks he deals with in the department are competent people at the line item, at the line level. Well, how is it we get these competent, well-trained, professional folks at the line level with an incompetent administration? I think there has to be some competency if the guys and ladies perform so well. Recently, the council asked Representative, at that time, Putin, and by the way, we have my congratulations on your election, to put a change in for the law. Okay, that's a good direction. Why don't we wait and see what that brings about before we figure out what else we're going to do? You folks voted for that, asked him to put it in. He did. It hasn't been acted on yet. I don't think the police department is in such bad shape. We have to decide to make a change in a month. I don't even think that's good policy to go forward and try to rush it like that. You're going to end up with a bad result, in my opinion. Bunch more, but I'll stop there. I was just kind of stunned when I heard the council jump up and decide to put a referendum on. Ill-defined, and I think ill-advised. And if we just haul off, let's see what the legislature does with the first thing we ask them to do, and move on from there. If we deliberate a little more and go to an election next year after some good consideration, fine. If the folks then want to go ahead, there'll be enough people who know what you're talking about. You run at it now, they won't have any idea. People are angry. They're not just angry at what's going on here with the police department or anything else in this town. They're angry, period. They're angry at the federal government, they're angry at the state government, they're angry at the economy. That's where the anger is. So that's my 2 cents worth. Appreciate your patience and appreciate your good efforts in part of the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a different subject. I want to sing the praises of the fire department. The day after the storm, I had the unique opportunity. I went down to the fire department to see if there was anything that I could do. I didn't know what, but if there was anything I could do to help. I knew that
There were a lot of folks in town that were hurting. And Harold invited me along with Assistant Chief Mike Rosenton. And I had the opportunity to travel around the town. And Dan Pike, was Dan still here? No. These people did a top-notch professional job. And Harold, on behalf of the council, I want to thank you and the folks that you work with for the great job you did in helping the people of this community. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. One last item before we dismiss. I wanted to just remind everyone that we will be appointing a new person to the commission in June. There's a spot that's up. Everybody knows that, correct? Okay, so what I'm going to ask, if it's the council's opinion, I'd like to ask Carol, I'd like to start the process early so that we can be prepared as that happens. So what that, you would need to know what that looks like, exactly when officially we can start looking, but I think we'd like to get that process out there quickly and begin to look. Is that okay? You have support on that? Yeah. All right, and I'll bring it out as a agenda item on the next meeting on the 24th and let you know where we stand, how we might go about doing that. All right. That said, I'll entertain a
Move to adjourn.
second. All those in favor? Opposed?